Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
and it is episode 125 of Podcast 2 for 1. Yes, we've done 125 episodes. We're coming up on our 3-year anniversary, and if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button, that notification bell. That way you're up to date on all future episodes of Podcast 2 for 1, as well as the cool content we have at 2 for 1 Studios, youtube.com/2 for 1 Studios, the best place to consume the content, of course, on all podcast services every week. But we have exclusive things on the YouTube channel like 2 for 1 Joe Live every Monday at 9 a.m., where we break down the movie news and TV news that we think you care about. And of course, 2 for 1 Collectors, Backflash, and all the other original content. And if you didn't know, and boy, oh boy, I bet you did not, we are sponsored by Kapow Comics, located at 4047 East Kill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. There they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course, special guest appearances throughout the year. Daniel, we are talking The Boys Season 3. And we have a text thread, right? We brought up on the channel multiple times. You, me, and Travis. We kind of bounce back MCU, Star Wars, and just whatever other news that we find interesting, right? It's a sub-podcast. And
Indeed,
me and Travis have been sitting here texting back, building up hype for Boys Season 3 because you hadn't watched it yet. And I was always afraid that this day would come when you finally watched it. Because I got a little taste of it yesterday at dinner. And
Indeed,
give me your general thoughts on The Boys Season 3.
I didn't think it was that great. I thought it was entertaining at just a level of like shock, kind of spectacle is entertaining. There is something that keeps you engaged of like, well, who's going to blow up in a bloody mess next, or what is the next like, oh shit moment. But as far as the characters, their arcs, as far as like the substance of any kind of like political or social commentary the show is trying to make, and at the end of the day, I felt like most of the shock stuff was just surface level shock stuff that didn't really add too much of the character, really didn't add to the stories that, we'll get to the hero-gasm episode. But to me, that was just like a set piece that for a plot point that had nothing to do with the set piece, or no reason to be there other than, nudity and sex. And yeah, I get, yes, it was in the comics. That's fine. Or like hero-gasm is a part of the comics in some way. But at the end of the day, it just felt like it was gratuitous. The gratuitous violence and sex was there just to be gratuitous, not to show anything interesting, to make any interesting kind of statements or themes. Yeah, I felt like, and it makes me now want to go rewatch the other seasons to feel like if maybe I'm just souring on this flavor of superhero deconstruction. But yeah, I was a bit let down compared, and I think part of it too was you guys were really hyping it up in our text thread, and so my expectations were relatively, I was expecting it to be good and to enjoy it fairly much.
I get it.
That's my.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I think when I first started watching it, those first 3 episodes that dropped, they kind of dropped 3. They released subsequently after that every week. I kind of did feel like, oh, this show's kind of slower than I anticipated.
Yes.
Obviously, there's a big status quo change. The world is a little different after season 2 in terms of where our characters are starting and kind of what they're doing. I did find myself getting more and more interested as the Soldier Boy story started progressing, finding out more about that backstory, seeing Homelander just continue to fall apart internally,
Yeah.
and then also watch him fall apart externally, but like see this, and it was a very real world situation where they're pulling from like a Donald Trump, where someone who voices their opinion and there's like in like almost an
Yeah.
outrageous way, and then you're splitting the fan base. You have some people who are just agreeing with it and are enjoying the candidness of it all, and others who are grossed out by it and who are fighting in opposition. So I'm not a huge fan on just like mimicking the world in totality, even though I kind of pushed back a little bit yesterday on
No.
dinner with you. But I'm not a huge fan of that because it feels a little too like it's almost too obvious, a little on the nose, and it's a little too real worldy. Like we're not completely past it all
Well,
yet, you know?
well, the problem for me is that it's not actually making any commentary about these things. It's not like it's saying something interesting about these social movements. It's literally using these social movements, these real world political things, as devices to tell us who's a good character and who's a bad character, right? Homelander, the only reason any of that stuff, like the Donald Trump level, like press conferences and stuff like that, rallies like that they homage to, is they were just using that to show that Homelander's a bad guy. Like that's the only reason that was in there. With I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name. Let me look up the cast real quick. Um,
I do think that it would have done the show a little service because, like, here's the thing. I think that you can you can hate Donald Trump all you want, but I also think you can't hate in totality the people who like Donald Trump because that's half the country. And you need half the other half of the
yeah.
country to keep functioning as the United States of America. I think it'd been interesting to get more of their perspective in the show versus leaning more on Homelander's perspective because that's more interesting.
Well,
Is like why do these people think it's okay to do that, or why do
yeah,
they
I
why are they
agree.
conflicted in like some elements of Homelander but not all of them? We got a little bit of that
Yes.
with like the stepdad, but it was more like
No.
he. I know, but I'm saying they went to the fact that he just agreed because for some reason he liked it, not why he liked it or why he gravitated towards it.
It was just because the mainstream media lies. That was his reasoning. Like he's
Right.
telling the truth, everyone else is lying. Which is again, they're just using things we hear in real life to show for one to say like Homelander's bad. Here's how we show it. And I guess it is like, I mean, you're only going to agree with that, I guess, if you're kind of leaning more progressive or left, but politically. But then you're right. It's just like, it's just saying like, oh yeah, all these people that do this, they're just like, they would cheer if Homelander zapped somebody's head, if they criticized him, right? Like, and I think that's just, for one, not true. It
Right.
is there's no nuance in its portrayal of the real world
Right.
events it's trying to show. And for two, just not interesting. Like, I mean,
It's
like,
not interesting.
God,
Yeah.
there's got to be more ways to do this that aren't like this. And I think just the show wears political and social movements on its sleeve in a way that seems like it's like progressive and thoughtful in doing, but it's actually not at all. Like okay, Mother's Milk character, right? Like he's a part of the boys. It's the and he's got that whole plot line with his daughter and the stepdad. Every scene he is in, he is wearing a black shirt with either a rapper on it or a like stop the violence or BLM on it. And I get it. Like we want to promote, like we want to put like our good protagonist characters with these like social movements we agree with. But when every scene, the only black character on the team is always wearing a Snoop Dogg or Tupac or Stop the Violence shirt, then it just feels like he's a totem, right? He's just like oh, we need a black character, and well, he's black, so he's got to wear all the black movement and black hip hop artist shirts, and then it just feels like this doesn't feel like a real person at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, and all the shirts, they look like the Walmart brand version of like a Snoop Dogg shirt or a Tupac shirt. It's just like that's both unnecessary because it doesn't really add anything to his character other than you hanging a light. Like it's like hanging a lantern on this guy's black. See the clothes he wears? He's a black guy. He wears rapper shirts, and it's just like that's, for one, I think kind of racist and like kind of like just kind of like really like simplistic, or just like it just so missing the mark, I think, of what they were, I guess, going for. But I felt like that's the theme for every time the show gets political. It's just like, you're not saying anything interesting. You're either trying to make commentary or trying to tell the audience who's a good guy or bad guy in this show, or you're just making commentary on the real world, but you're not investigating. You're just saying these people bad, these people good. And you're right. While that does feel good, right? Like there's this, cathartic nature to seeing the bad, like the people that we disagree with in life, seeing them in some fictional universe getting what they deserve or something like that. But it's both unhelpful to the show. I don't think it adds anything good or interesting to the show. And it's just unhelpful in terms of like the political and cultural zeitgeist. Like
I agree.
it's just like, it's kind of like throwing stones. And like, listen, I'm coming from mostly agreeing with most of like the political stances this show tries to take, right? Like in theory, I agree with a lot of what they're saying or attempting to say with these things, but how they're doing it feels so plastic and so surface level that that at the end of the day, it actually feels gross to me every time they do it. Cause it's like, you don't actually understand this. You're not interested in making any kind of offering any insight on this, or like contributing in a helpful way to this conversation. You're just here to, make all the bad guys in the show think what align them ideology with the people you disagree with in life, and then make all the good guys agree with you. And that's just boring. I mean, like, that's just a very boring way to handle that. And that was everywhere in the show. That was throughout the whole season.
I'll give you that. Again, I'm still positive on this season for other reasons, but I did feel the political stuff was a little too much, and I felt like it was a little too close to home. And
it was way over the top.
My political stuff is, a little different from yours, as we've talked privately. But we agree on a lot of stuff too. But anyway, I that's another conversation, not for the pod, I think.
Agreed. But yeah, and then going
do feel
home,
that way.
You mentioned. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel that way with the mechanizations of the political stuff where it's a little too much. But taking that stuff aside, I really like seeing Homelander discover that there's people who agree with him with his real self, and that realization that like he is not alone in that facet. I think that was fun to watch, and it was even fun to get a little Willem Dafoe, even though it's not as good as Willem Dafoe, but a little of that mirror talk of like he has this internal dialogue, and there's I like seeing that breakdown, and I like seeing that every time he almost felt like he made a mistake, it actually benefited him on some level. Like it actually, that everything he was trained to like protect and to like hide from, every time he let that out, he actually was rewarded for it, and I thought that was fun to watch.
I'll just say, building off that, I think Homelander was the best part of the season, easily.
He's great.
His scenes when he was, I think he was the best acting out of anyone on the season, and when he was on screen, the show was at its most interesting. It had me most engaged. I do feel like where we left him at the end of season 2, like it felt like he was on the edge. Like we were like at the end of season 2, he has that like goes into his head and imagines like murdering everyone in this big group of people, right? And like we see at the end, it was just like him, imagining it, or like a waking dream or whatever. But I felt like they set him up to be much more closer to the breaking point at the beginning of the season, and then they just kept not letting him get to the breaking point. It kept being like, oh, he's getting really stressed out. Oh, he's getting like really pissed because things aren't going his way and people are getting in his way. And then he would just be like, okay, never mind, I'm gonna walk away. You know what I mean? It's just, and that to me felt a little bit like, that's not where I felt like he was at the end of last season. And I agree, it was interesting to see the turn about midway where like he's like, I'll just be myself and people agree with it. He ousts Stan Edgar character and stuff like that. But still, it just felt a little bit like leading us along with him. Like, oh, when is he going to go crazy? When is he going to shoot everyone's head off and just murder the world kind of thing?
I can see that.
it was just like kind of teasing, and I don't think it
He
really paid off. It didn't pay off at the end of the season at all.
he definitely felt like it was. I was surprised how many times he backed down, for sure, and like how many
Yes,
times it felt like
yes,
his nuts were in a vice for a second, or he felt that way that he couldn't do something because of whatever. I was
yes,
surprised at how much he was playing ball with people still. Like
exactly.
I agree. I do agree. I think that hopefully now we got the end of season 3, it will be less so because of what he does at the end. Um, I want to kind of go through a few of the characters. I think the most compelling one this year, one of them is I love the Butcher Huey. This is the first time I felt like they
Mm,
really were a team and they were on the same page in terms of like we even split the team up right multiple times. Like we have, I can't. You said what's his name
yeah,
again? The
Mother's Milk.
his name's
It's a
Mother's
very
Milk.
strange name. Yeah, I had to look it up again. I was like, that's not his actual name. Is that they refer him to that in the show as Mother's Milk?
I guess so.
I
So
guess maybe they just never say his name very often, but
maybe not. Yeah. So Mother's
yeah,
Milk.
it's
There's Huey, and then we
Laz
have
Alonso is the actor's name.
yes, Frenchie and Kimiko.
Kamiko.
I've never been a fan of like that storyline, so I was kind of already uninvested. Even though there is some good, sweet stuff in there, I've never cared about it too much. Um, but I felt like Mother's Milk, his storyline this year with like his trauma with Homelander and like the
Mhm.
death of his father or grandfather, I felt like I don't know, it kind of felt disjointed in that I didn't care about that either. Like I just he would
Well, it
freeze,
just
and I felt
felt
like also it should have been prepped in season 1 and 2 that this is why he does what he
yes.
does.
Yes. Yes.
We
That there it
never
is right
heard
there. They shoot in a character motivation for him to bring him
yeah,
back to the boy, because at the end of season 2 he's like, I'm done. I'm going to hang out with my daughter. I'm going to be a good father now. And so they had to find like a reason to, bring him back to the group, and I agree, it just felt forced. I would also agree that Kamiko and Frenchie, I actually enjoyed them way more in season 1 and 2. I really enjoyed the Kamiko story with her brother. Thought that was good. I thought everything they did in the season was just boring. Just it was completely detached from any of the other main plots. Like everything that they went through had really nothing to do with like Homelander and Soldier. I know they helped with Soldier Boy, but like other than that, like everything was going on with her and her powers and Frenchie and this Russian girl. And that also just felt like there were so many times where like it was like they were like, oh yeah, we need this Russian toxin to do, to make this guy whatever, to get Soldier Boy, right? Like that's his like only weakness is his Russian toxin or whatever.
mhm,
And then it's like very conveniently one scene before a random ass Russian lady was introduced to the plot. You know what I mean? And
right.
it's like they were just like, oh well, let's just develop this into like a deeper plot with Frenchie. But have we ever seen his sister before? Is that his sister, the other girl that he was protecting? I assumed it was his sister,
I don't
or
remember.
maybe an old love
I don't know.
interest. I don't
I don't
know.
know.
But it felt like she came out of nowhere as like a motivation for him, and I have no connection to her. And then at the end of the scene where he's like, they're like, choose between Kimiko and this other random ass girl, who are you gonna save? And it's just none of that was interesting at all. It just felt very like it felt like they were writing the main plot and they said, oh no, we don't have anything for Frenchie or Kimiko to do. Okay, let's just write this other like random ass thing that gives them something to do when all these other characters are actually doing things that are like important to the world. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I just didn't see enough character development in Kamiko
Stop
or
changing my
Frenchie. Like
mind,
I didn't feel
Daniel,
like
on this season.
okay, that I didn't see enough character develop.
Continue.
Like if it would be one thing if they focused on them and it was character and it was really good, but like I don't get that. Like, how does Frenchie change from the beginning of the season to the end? Like, I mean, Kamiko, for at the very least, like values her powers, I guess, at the end
Right.
because she
Yeah.
chooses to get them back. But other than that, it's just like I don't get it. I don't really get the point of those characters this season. And I'll say I think Butcher and Huey were the best part of the boys this season.
Yes.
I I didn't. I mean, the Butcher stuff, the exploring his backstory, like I guess it was like episode 6, or it was 5 or 6 when he's like knocked out by that mind guy. To me, again, that kind of felt like shoehorning character motivation in at the last second to motivate what he's going to do next with Huey. You know what I mean? Like it really felt
Well,
like have we ever seen anything about his brother or his dad in past seasons? I don't remember
yes,
anything.
we have.
Have we?
It
Okay.
was it,
Okay.
it
So
was a
maybe
thing.
that's
It was
just
a thing in season 1, I believe, and
okay.
maybe also
So
season 2. Yeah, that's a big part of him. When we have got any backstory about him, it was involving that in the previous seasons.
okay. Okay. So that's me just not
But
remembering.
here's the thing that I
That's
liked
fine.
about that was that
Okay.
that's it, it's it, you. I like the idea that they're setting that up to like inform he's going to protect Huey, and then he just doesn't. I thought that was great. Like
But
he
he
doesn't.
does.
He does later, but in that moment, he's like basically he turns it off when the point where he shouldn't like he at
Right.
that moment right after that dream he should be like no, but he still says yes. It takes him a while to get to the no, but I did like that he's told him yes. Like I felt like he is still Butcher and he's still fighting like that internal. I like that.
I I
Um,
agree. I did like that because it was an unexpected turn. I agree.
I think Annie and Huey, their relationship this year, it felt it was interesting, in the fact that
Was it?
well, I mean, it was interesting the fact that, like, they felt very apart, and I think it's part of the reason, but I was kind of like, I'm not sure that conversation in the vehicle at the end is, like, gonna fix everything like it did,
No. No.
um, but even though, like, I know the arc was like, "Hey, is it okay to be powerless and to, like, have someone else save you?" And it's like a classic thing of, like, the reverse, right? Typically, a woman might get power, and I want to save you sometime besides you
Right.
saving me, but this time it was the man, right? Because she's been the powerful one the whole time, and that was okay. But how do you feel about Soldier Boy? Question.
He was much less involved in the story than I was expecting. Going into it, we knew Soldier Boy. Like he didn't show up till like halfway through the season, and I felt like in the end he wasn't that interesting of a character because he was just like Homelander 1.0 or like the alpha version of Homelander. Like he was a giant dick who like held strongly a lot of the masochistic and just bad views of the his time period, just like Homelander does.
Yeah.
He holds these extreme views of that time of his time, the current time period, and he just ends up and even just how they use him. Okay, well now he's going to be the weapon for Homelander, and then at the last second, never mind, kill this guy instead. Let's team up with Homelander for a few minutes just because there's people in the building still, I guess.
Well, it's
And I
because the
just
boy he was going to kill the boy. That's why Butcher says no. He's going to kill Homelander's son, and Butcher was going to kill both of
Yeah,
them
but then
because
Maeve is the one that ends up saving him. Like Maeve is the one that ends up like defeating him, like tackling him out of the window and the explosion happening outside. And I just think that felt weird. I was like, why is Maeve the one like finishing the blow with him? It should have been Butcher for one. If he's trying to
well,
like who's saving the kid, it's May. Everyone else is held down, and Maeve's like the only one still up fighting, and she's like
that's all plot. I mean,
giving us no reason to believe she would want anything other than just to kill Homelander. And then at the last second, she decides to be virtuous, and that just felt out left field to me.
well, I mean, I don't think so because the whole 3 seasons she's been like fighting the like her bad self versus her the self that
Yes,
she
you're right.
presents, and that's her redemption, and her reward is she becomes powerless, which seems like something that she actually wants. I'm not a fan of like she survived it. I think she should have died because
That
that's
was
more
weird.
virtuous. I not
Yeah, that was weird
She
that
should
she
have
survived.
died. I was also surprised that I've never read the comics, and I don't want to read them because we're in the show now, and I don't want to spoil the show, any
Yeah,
potential idea of the show. But Soldier Boy, like him, I was surprised that he survived. I was like, oh, I guess we're ending that, but like it felt like this was like a tee up season to what I thought
yes,
it could end season 3, even though I know it wasn't going to be one. But it feels like now we're kind of putting more pieces into place for season 4 and potentially 5, which I
yeah.
suspect could be the last one. I just don't know if they'll do this forever with these like
I
huge.
mean,
Like Carl
yeah.
Urban's a huge
I hope
actor.
they don't. For me, they're starting to wear out their welcome a little bit and just become like, especially when we're getting these other like Invincible, like these other takes on kind of superhero deconstruction that I think are a bit more interesting and a bit more nuanced. This one now is starting to feel like just all flash and no substance a little bit to me. And
To be
I think
fair, again, let's talk the hero gasm thing. Like I loved
Okay.
like Homelander getting his ass like this the fight scene, like Homelander getting his ass kicked and like how all these storylines converge with Mother's Milk. And I like the Mother's Milk Annie like team ups. I like those two together actually.
Sure.
And I liked like Soldier Boy coming in and Homelander realizing, fuck, this actually is not great for me. And then Huey there. I mean, like that to me was like it felt like the first time where the heroes were actually getting like a one over the bad guys in a substantial way. Because to me, the show ends when Homelander dies, right? Like it ends when that
Yeah.
happens.
Yes.
And
I
and
agree. And go ahead, finish your thought.
no, I was just saying that I love like even the conversations with Butcher and Homelander leading up to that, where they're just kind of like these two mutual guys are like scorched earth, like they're like it's like they want to go
Mhm.
out killing each other. Like that's more
Right.
important than all the other stuff. It's more important than their relationships. It's more important than how people perceive them. They want to go out because it's like their manifest destiny now at this point to end each other. And I like that kind of rivalry.
I do too, and I think that does work well. And I agree. It was fun. It was fun to see them like Homelander kind of run away with his tail between his legs. But at the same time, I didn't think that fight scene, like the fight choreography, was anything that interesting or outstanding.
I liked it. I
Um,
thought it was cool.
it just I don't know. It just felt like dudes punching each other, but we're adding sound effects to sound like it's super strong punches.
Yeah, I think
And
it's just because it was. I think what it wasn't the fighting. It was just the context of what was
the
happening.
moment, yeah,
Of like Homelander is against the wall for the first time physically, and like
I
and
agree.
seeing his reactions, and then seeing like, oh fuck, Soldier Boy's here. Like you know what I'm saying, like those kind of things is what made that. It's it's same thing about the hero gasm stuff. Like that's all fluff, and it's it's fun in its own way of like what kind of gross stuff they can do. But to me, it was like these
Is
storylines are
it though?
converging at this I mean, it's fun in terms of like
Is it
you.
really that fun to see a guy open a door with his dick or the deep fucking octopus? Like,
I mean,
I don't know. Like, just none of that was like, it was like weird, gross, but also just
I
like
mean, I don't crave
didn't
it,
feel
but
like
if
it
you're
really
watching the
mattered.
boys and like they're always on to top themselves. I'm not saying I was like, oh fuck yeah, we get to watch the deep fucking octopus. Like I'm not like saying I enjoy that aspect
Yeah.
of it, but it's like it's the show diving into like what makes itself absurd and like what gets the headlines. It's that like at its biggest, right? But like to me, I didn't care about that kind of stuff. I'm saying like that was like an interesting visual background to be happening in contrast like to the emotional stuff to me story wise that was happening. And I did like like it felt like at least big in scale, I should say, like the spectacle was large and like production design,
Did it?
all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's like that's
See,
not
I
easy
was kind
shit
of
to do.
I was expecting more, honestly. I thought it kind of felt like an orgy with some VFX thrown in. Like it didn't feel like I
I
don't know. I
mean,
guess I was
I
just
thought it was pretty
expecting
gratuitous, but
it was gratuitous in its nudity, but it wasn't like I don't know. I expect like more out like super powered people fucking each other in more like super powered centric ways. It just felt like a bunch of people fucking each other normally, but their eyes glow or there's sparks or something. You know what I mean?
well maybe your
Um,
expectations like are are a little more eccentric than mine. I don't know for like
I
that kind.
guess
I don't
so.
know.
I don't. I
I was kind of
I
like,
guess when
oh
I
man,
hear
they're
the word
doing
hero
this.
gasm, I think of like this is gonna be like honestly more like the stuff that happened in the beginning of the season with that dude crawling inside that guy's dick. Like that
That
was kind of more what I
that
was
made my
expecting at
mouth
that
like kind
level.
of like, oh my god, they're actually doing this.
I
Like
did not enjoy that. No.
it was
Um,
so. I mean, I posted on Facebook like we can't have Elvis shake his ass on TV in the '50s and
yeah,
'60s to
yeah,
this now, and like what
yeah.
where
I
have
and
we
but
have went far.
and I was expecting I think more things at that level, and I just felt like when we got there, it was just an orgy with superheroes,
Sure.
and I was like, okay, fine.
I
But
did love
yeah, I
Mother's
think
Milk's reaction, like him, like when the guy came all over him. Like I did enjoy like his
I
disgust and
didn't,
like
man.
his on
Like,
his shirt. Like I liked his reaction to it, not the cum everywhere, but I did like the like him just like his
yeah,
upset that his shirt gets messed up. Like I think that was funny.
it was to me it was fine. To me again that's kind of slapsticky humor. So it's like kind of
Well, I mean, like what? Okay, well, then
too
what in
low
season
bar.
one that what in
We're
season
gonna have
one
an
that was that
orgy and
kind
the
of
guy gets
humor?
upset when he gets cum on him. Like it's just I don't
Well,
know.
it's
It's
not.
just
It's not
obvious.
upset because of that. It's upset because it's like a fucking sperm whales amount of cum on him. That's why it's funny. But like,
Yeah, and then it just yeah.
well, question. Well, what in season one and two that was absurd? That was the kind of humor that you enjoyed on that kind of level. Like, what was that versus this? That like,
I don't I don't remember honestly. I don't think of the boys like the humor is not what gets me in the boys. The humor is not what attracts me to it. I don't think of it as a comedy. I guess it is, but I feel like it's more of a. The interesting part of the boys is these serious characters and Homelander being like on the verge of like like a schizophrenic breakdown at all times or something like that's what's
yeah,
interesting.
but you got that the most this season with Homelander in terms of like him. Like
Yeah, but
he
I guess
and
I
you
was feel
said
like I was being teased the whole season with it. We never saw him blow like even the finale. It's not like the most he does is shoot one guy's head off. And at the end of last season, we in a vision, I get it. We saw him murder everyone, like hundreds of people, just brutally. And I felt like this season was like, oh, he's going crazy. But he's gonna he's gonna walk it off this time. Oh, he's going crazy again. He's fine. He's just gonna go
gotcha.
do something else, And then at the end, it was just like I mean, the battle between him and Soldier Boy was fine. But again, even Soldier Boy's motivation for like wanting to kill Homelander in the end, where he's like, I just don't think you're what a man should be. I'm just like, okay, what? I mean, yeah, I get it. It's like the 1940s macho man personality meeting the 2022 macho man toxic personality. But that's just not that interesting of a
Well,
motivation for me.
I don't really think that was like the real 100% reason why he's doing it. I think it's more. I think deep down it was more what is a hero to him, and like this guy is bad. It is my and so, I was going to ask you what's your thoughts? I thought the twist was like holy fuck, that's his son. Like I thought that was great. I thought that's a great layer they added.
I I mean, it didn't blow me out of the water. I felt like, I mean, I feel like, I don't know. It would have if it added something more interesting to the story, and it almost did for Homelander for a minute with him like, oh, I'm not alone anymore, and like, that being meaningful to him. But then I don't know. It just didn't pay off that well for me. Like, um, I don't know. I just
Hey,
think there was more interesting things to do with that layer because it's interesting, but it's I don't know. It's just it didn't pay
well,
off for me. I guess at the end of the day.
the showrunners did say that this season was more so about fathers and there's the
Sure.
bot
Yeah.
leader,
Butcher
there's Homelander and his son, Butcher and Homelander's son, Soldier
and
Boy and
Butcher in his
Homelander.
flashbacks
Yeah,
with his father.
Mother's Milk avenging his grandfather and X, Y, and Z, and then also Mother's Milk and his daughter's relationship. And so like, and even Huey, I think, has a conversation about like his dad and like his dad, um,
Yeah.
basically, yeah, something about the
Eating
fact that
pizza rolls.
he pizza rolls, yes. So then they said the next season will be more about sons. So it's one thing that does kind of scare me. I'm never a fan of kid superhero stuff, as we just talked about in our previous podcast with Thor: Love and Thunder. But
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what they're going to go with Homelander's son. I mean, it seems like he's. I mean, obviously the tale at the end is that he's enjoying this,
Right.
set of rules now he's been presented with, or lack of rules. So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
I thought yeah, I didn't think that kid's acting was very good this season. And and he did feel kind of plot devicey by the end of it. Like we're just
Sure.
using him to show that the world has changed. Like the end of last season, like Butcher walks off with him past Homelander, right? Like that's the end of that part. And the beginning of the season, like he's in hiding, whatever. And like the big change is what has changed in the world this season. Now the kids with Homelander and Homelander's the leader of Vought, but I don't really know what has changed with any of like the protagonist characters. Like what has changed for the boys? What was different before the season that that's changed by the end of it? I guess like their mission it seems to be the exact same. Um,
Well, it feels more
they're
like
still
a
together.
is the word an oligarch? It feels more like a or democracy now. It feels more like it's at least that's what Frenchie says, right? Like, hey, you're not going to run this group anymore. It's more we're going to decide together. And he's part of the group now too. Huey's went through his
Yeah,
like,
but she
I
she
mean,
was effectively she was basically
sh-
helping them at every turn, even though she was officially with Vought still. So
she
that doesn't
was,
feel like
but
a big change.
it will be it's a little different. Also, she can fly now. I think it's new, right? She can fly. I know it's not a character thing, but it's like a thing. I'm
Well,
just
that
adding
does
in
bring
here.
up a point that like that big moment where they like Huey like looks at the like green temp V and it's like, oh, you think he's gonna take it right to go help, and then instead he just turns all the lights up, and that's fine. But also like when you have Starlight glowing like Super Saiyan mode, and like this is I guess the most powerful we've seen her, and then all she does is just push Soldier Boy over and he gets right back up. It just feels like, okay, I guess she isn't that powerful, or that again, it just
Sure.
feels like this show set up so much, and I just felt pretty consistently the payoff did not match the anticipation of what
I do
this
think
show
the
is doing.
Hero-gasm like fight ultimately was more satisfying than the fight we got at the end, but
Yes,
just because like it went somewhere in the fact that Homelander is like a wounded dog and he's like fuck, versus this is like it was just a fight that happened, which I did like the pairings, I did like some of those things, but it was like
sure.
no one. I mean, Soldier Boy and Maeve both survived. Nothing really bad happened to Homelander. He should have got something. I mean, like she shoved a pencil into his brain. Like, how do you kill Homelander? Like,
Well, and my thing too is like, I don't think the reaction to him getting his ass beat was nearly strong enough. Like basically, he like puts makeup on and like just pretends like everything's normal. And I just feel like you're talking about Homelander, the guy that has almost psychotically murdered the whole world several times, and for the first time in his existence, he was beat in a fight. And the guy's
yeah,
just gonna like shake it off and try not to think about it. No, I think that would like send him into like near psychosis. Like I feel like we should have seen him like literally like seconds away from just scorched earthing the whole earth and not giving a fuck about anyone. Like I just feel like that didn't, from who we've set up his character to be, this volatile, chaotic, dangerous person, that just felt like a really like under, I guess I don't it was a
sure,
I
anticlimactic.
can't think of the word I'm thinking of. It didn't meet expectations. It didn't feel like that was what he would actually do. This volatile, this crazy of a
Gotcha.
person would actually just
But I also
keep
think that
acting
like
like things are normal.
I think also though he's finally getting a taste of someone. I mean, people love it. Like he wants people to love him. He even tells himself that, right? He's someone, and like he is now being presented during that first half of the season that people agree with him. So it's like he is going to throw
Right.
away that potential, overlord plan where people like the real him. So it's kind of like now he's actually conflicted. Like if maybe that happened in season two, I think we might have got scorched earth. But now that he's been given like like a social army essentially, I think now that kind of like he doesn't want to lose that now. It's something he actually has something to live for, and his son, of course. So
Yeah, you're maybe right, and
it may
that's
be weak.
maybe
I'm
that
just
that
giving reasons. Yeah,
yeah, I can see that. I think I can see the logic behind that. But I think if that's true, they should have made that more clear.
I agree.
Like
I
that
agree.
they should have made that more evident. They're like, oh yeah, he's about to go scorched earth, and then he's like, oh wait, he sees another news report about everyone loving him again, and then we see him like that. That's what pulls him out of the like hole that he goes in when he gets his ass beat.
Yeah.
And I just think that would have been stronger.
Two things. One is it's a small thing. Is that there's the person who's going to commit suicide on the rooftop. That's a classic Superman like thing. Now, there's a
Mm-hmm.
storyline where Superman's up there and someone's committing suicide, and he like it's like a classic moment in the comics, and I thought that was a fun reference, and it's like the opposite, right? Where he just like fuck it, kill yourself, and pushes him off, whatever. Um,
I did agree. I agree. I liked that. That version when we got that kind of Homelander, that was the most interesting the show was, with those kind
yeah.
of scenes with Homelander.
Last thing is, what can the show do for you going into season four and potentially a final season? What can it do for you to kind of bring you back from the brink?
I mean, I think at this point the only reason I want to watch anymore is Homelander, right? I think it's got a tall order to make me really care about any of the boys, the protagonist characters. I just think their motivations are just very like, I'm gonna kill him because he killed my dad. And yeah, okay, that's not even for Homeland. That's for Soldier Boy with Mother's Milk. I just feel like it's like superheroes are bad. We got to end them, and so we're gonna do that. I mean, it seems like Butcher's on a ticking time clock. I'm assuming that makes me think, what with the reveal at the end that he has like 12 months to live, right?
Right.
That feels like destined then for a final season next, because you know what I mean. That it would seem weird if we stretched into 2 seasons, but they could. So yeah, I want to care about the main cast again, and right now I just don't. I just the only that and that's it's a testament to how strong of a character Homelander is and how well he's written. But like, I care about the antagonist and his like journey more than I care about any of the protagonists and the people with like views that I actually kind of agree with. I actually am more interested in just seeing what pans out with this crazy ass guy. It's almost feels like a little bit like Breaking Bad a little bit right now, where it's like I'm not really aligned with the good guys. I'm aligned with the bad guy and just seeing how exactly his journey, kind of pans out.
Gotcha. Also, I don't give two shits about the Deep or A Train, especially A Train. Like, he has an awful
No.
storyline going
And,
on. Like, it's not
and
not awful in the sense
again,
like what they're saying is bad. Just like it's just not fun or even like
and
well
again,
portrayed.
let's they're using him to like make commentary on like social politics with race and
Right.
like, over policing and all these kinds of stuff, but you don't do anything interesting with it. You just characterize each of these people. Okay, he's just going to be like, he's even got the prototypical cop mustache, right? And he's just going to be the racist, profiling asshole, and then he's going to show up to apologize and not apologize. It just is like, okay, like I like it just isn't interesting. And at the end of the day, it's like, well, and even like the end at the end where like A Train like gets his heart, and that's how he survives, and that's how he can run again. And for a moment, it seems like he's like upset about that. But for one, I'm like, I don't think A Train would give a fuck, because A Train hasn't given a fuck about any of this. He's just doing this to like, because other people tell him to or think he should. I don't think he would give a fuck that he got the racist guy's heart if he can run again. And
I don't
at the end of the
I don't
day,
think
it's
he
just,
actually cares. Yeah, about like this political stuff. I
no,
feel like
he
he's
doesn't.
trying to find a reason to justify. Like he's trying to become relevant, and he's
Yes.
lying to himself that it actually is important to him.
Yes, exactly. And even like the whole thing with what was his name? Supersonic. The guy that was like, as soon as Supersonic like said that to A Train, I was like, well, he's dead, because A Train's just gonna immediately tell Homelander, because A Train only wants Homelander's approval. Like, that's the only thing he ever wants. So I was like,
Yeah.
that was like obvious to me. As soon as that happened, I was like, well, he's dying very soon. And I think he died like that same episode later, and in a very like off-screen kind of boring way. Like I guess it's like a twist to turn her Annie around and like, oh, there's his dead body, lasered to fuck. But I guess again, if we're gonna kill a character like that you're kind of setting up as like, oh, is this a new protagonist? Is this a guy we can trust? And I just think there would do it on screen, do it in more like a shocking way, like have him show up to the first meeting of the Seven, and then like right after introductions, Homelander just lasers into fuck, like that. That is a more interesting way to do that, I think.
I agree. I did enjoy Black Noir, his cartoon.
Yeah,
I actually like that because I think it was like
I
a
will
fun way
say.
to. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Sorry.
You're good. No, you're good.
I would say I asked Catherine, because the show says he is bipolar, right? Like that's what they say he has a condition for. People with just bipolar do not see hallucinations. They only do that if they're schizoaffective bipolar, which means that they are really just schizophrenics with bipolar, like similar bipolar symptoms. Like they have it like kind of on top of that. So I was
I mean, like,
I care.
I care. I mean, I say who cares in the fact that like that's the in universe reason that the people who work for Vought or let's say he's bipolar, but like who's to say that he doesn't have 7 other things going on? Like he's been through a
You're right,
lot.
but
And
the
it
show
sounds
just
like
feels uninformed when it does that, right? It
it
just
feels
feels
like
like
to
they
me
didn't
like
do the research.
it's like him actually seeing those things clearly states that there's other things beyond that happening inside him. Just no one has figured that out yet, or no one knows
But the
about that
average
about him.
the, the average viewer is not going to think that. The average viewer is going to think, "Oh, bipolar people see cartoons, hallucinations." Like because
Sure, I see that.
that's what the show tells us is that
I
he's
see that.
bipolar. We found him because he's on a lithium prescription for his bipolarness,
Sure, I see that
and
argument of
now
like
he's
it's
just
uninforming bipolar
it's just
disorder.
clumsy.
I just
It's
feel
just
like
clumsy.
the universe reason of them saying that, I don't know if it's like, I don't think it's like concrete in an envelope. They're like, this is the only thing happened to him. I think that they're just not saying the other stuff, or like, or the people who are telling the information is also uninformed. Like, I mean, I get what you're saying. I agree with you. The fact that
There's no logical reason that if in universe that everyone's actually aware that it's much more than bipolar, they would just name bipolar, right?
well,
Because
I don't
like
think they are
even
aware.
if
That's my
I'm thinking
point. I
about,
think that he is a quiet individual who's been through a lot, who is suffering more than the other people know about him. That's what I think.
I guess, but that's just an assumption. Like the show isn't telling
It's
us
it's not
that.
it's not an assumption if he is seeing cartoon characters, and that's not how bipolar disorder is. So, I mean, like,
But you only know that because I just told you that.
exactly. Exactly. Also, here's the thing, I didn't even pick up that they said bipolar disorder. I just thought he was schizophrenic. I literally thought that. Like, I
Yeah,
didn't
well,
hear the dialogue. So I thought he was a lot of shit happening with him. I never heard or picked
sure.
up on the fact that they said that. So that's me, you know,
And
so I'm saying I
look,
brought my own assumption to that. So
yeah, and I'll say it's not like the biggest thing in the world. I just think it is like, I mean, bipolar disorder is one that is like if you're bipolar, a lot of times you're pretty high functioning, right? Like if you're on your medication, like you can actually just be a normal guy and normal citizen life and kind of be a
sure.
part of the world, have a job, have a family. If you know are maintaining your medication and your condition, if you're a schizophrenic, you cannot do any of that. You know what I mean? Like it's much more severe. And I just think I guess I think about the people that actually have bipolar disorder and that's all they have. And then they're like, oh wow, now everyone just thinks I'm like watching cartoons in my head all day when actually that's not at all what bipolar is. And you're right. Like maybe there is you're right, you can in universe justify it, but to me that just means that the writers didn't do the research and that it was just clumsy writing and just like what was there's nothing lost if you said has schizophrenia instead of bipolar. Like doesn't change anything about the story and it's actually more accurate. And it's a small thing, but it did bother me.
There is something I didn't think about, but they said Black Noir will return, but like it just for public appearances because anyone can be under the mask. Like it, you know, like Hellbender killed him, but they could get anyone to be Black Noir in terms of like
I
Vought.
didn't notice I said that.
They did in the show, but the showrunner said this, which is like it's an easy thing. Like, I mean,
Ah,
it's a fun plot point. It's like Black Noir can
yeah,
return, and it's Vought just trying to keep that mirage going, kind of thing, which I thought was
yeah,
a fun thing. Um, but yeah, so I agree. I mean, I still enjoyed this season overall. I There's things about it that was enough for me to be interested in season 4, especially like just knowing that I feel like we're ramping up to the finale here. We have a ticking time bomb
yeah.
um, you know, with Butcher, and also Homelander's getting more so like vulnerable in terms of like his them taking him on. I actually really enjoyed the introduction of powers for Butcher and Huey this season, and I'm gonna miss
I did
them
too.
next season because made it fun. The playing field was leveled a little bit, and it was fun
Agreed.
seeing Butcher go to toe to toe with these guys, and I enjoy that. So I think that
I was
going
kind of
forward,
expecting I was kind of expecting Huey to use that last temp V, and then they had to give him real V to save him. Like they made him an
oh,
actual superhero to save him from like the brain mush stuff
I mean that could be 100% what happens. Actually, they
with
could. I
Butcher.
mean,
Even yeah,
next season could be definitely a situation where I'm looking at the psychology of Black Noir now. But essentially, yeah, it says here that despite he has brain damage, despite his healing factor, Black Noir can still find difficulty in healing his brain damage. This must be a comic
mm,
thing. During his fight with Soldier Boy, he received extreme head trauma, which would end up causing a variety of mental problems, including amnesia, loss of speech, hallucinations, and infantilization. Um,
Yeah.
so I
And you
guess
know what? They
that might be a
did
cut. Oh,
to their credit, they did show him getting like brain damage. Like when they did the flashback, when all that shit happens, when they show what. Well, I guess they're. And I will say, I did find it like amusing how they actually showed it with the cartoons. What actually
yeah,
happened.
yeah.
I found that pretty amusing. I did enjoy that, and it was just animated well. The animation was really pretty.
It was. It
But
reminded me of the show, the what we just reviewed earlier this year, which I like. I like the cartoon stuff. That the Diabolical was what it
yes,
was called. Um, but yeah, no,
you mean oh, the boys
the
cartoon.
boys
Yes.
Diabolical.
And
No,
to your credit, I will say that they made a point to like show his like brain exposed when he like was bleeding. So that to their credit, yeah, if that is what was going on, that makes more sense.
um, yeah, I kind of hope Butcher keeps his powers and kind of keeps going. Like I want the big final fight at the end with Butcher, Soldier Boy, and Homelander, but like 10 out of 10 level chaos and just beating the
Yes.
fuck out of each other. And do you think Butcher will die at the end of the season or the end of the show?
I think so. Yeah, I mean he's a very troubled character. He basically is only living for revenge. So I feel like unless they give him something to live for, which at this point he has nothing other than to kill Homelander and get revenge, I feel like it would make the most sense for his character to die. Yeah.
I wonder if they'll do like a reverse thing where that's been his thing, and at the very end he gets his arc is in the show. He gets peace and he lets go of the idea that not all superheroes are bad, but maybe what I'm saying, like, and Homelander's gone or whatever. But I see it both ways, happening both ways. I'm really curious to see how that plans out. Daniel,
I
how
am
can our
too.
listeners write into us?
Listeners, you can write into bit.ly/241mail and let us know what you thought of The Boys Season 3. Am I just totally off base? Was this the best season of television that's ever been on the television? Let me know. Let me know.
Oh.
bit.ly/241mail.
And of course, if you can't hit up our Bitly, you can always go to youtube.com/241studios and comment in the comment section below or comment live right now as we are. We're live at the moment. And we'll talk to you, we'll converse with you, we'll tell you how you're wrong, all the beautiful things about podcasting. Of course, you should always subscribe to the channel and you should always like the channel, like the videos. It helps the algorithm push us. People can find us. And if people can find us, we can make more interesting content for you in the future. Again, we have 2 for 1 Joe live every Monday at 9 a.m. with myself and Luke Irvin, and typically a special guest where we break down all the movie and TV news that we think you care about. Daniel, it was fun time on season 3 of Boys. I was almost convinced midway through the season that we were going to have a great conversation about how much we love this season, or just like how it was kind
Yeah.
of ramping up some of these things, and it ended up being totally different, which I'm totally fine with, and I'm very excited to see season 4 and see where it goes and see where
Yeah.
we think about at the end of that next year, because as it's already been
Indeed.
confirmed for season 4, which makes me feel like it's not the last season because they typically announce that when they announce the the
Agreed.
the
Yeah.
the renewal.
I hope they don't draw it out too long. I mean, I hope they know when to end it and end it.
Yeah,
But I don't. I'm afraid they won't because it's like Amazon Prime's like biggest show, and
yeah.
Amazon Prime will not want to end it ever because what else do they have that people like talk about? I can't think
Yeah,
of
I
anything.
mean, Lord of the Rings is around the corner, but we'll see
You're
how that
right. You're
goes.
right. Which that is, but that's a huge question mark. I mean, that to
It's
me that
huge
could
question mark.
easily flop as much as it could do well.
I
Like
agree.
I feel like it's real
I
questionable. I mean,
I
I'm
feel like that
into it. I
show
mean,
is
I'm
either
like
going
a
to be
huge Lord of
like
the Rings fan.
okay or flop. I don't think it's going to be amazing. I don't know why I don't feel it yet.
Yeah, and if it's not amazing, that'll be an issue for me because I think the Peter Jackson original trilogy are peak fantasy cinema,
Well, I
and if
can't
you're gonna do
wait
it
to talk
again and you're
about
not
that
gonna reach
show on
that,
here.
woof, there's
Oh,
gonna
I
be
agree.
knives and pitchforks aplenty.
It's going to be bad. Yes. Well, there's also a boys spinoff show already filmed, or like it's already been filming.
About who?
I don't know, but it's supposed to take place during the time like of when the boys is like during season 3, like separate
Huh?
characters. So like that's happening. So there will
Interesting.
be more boys, more of the boys. Anyway, my name is Donovan Thompson.
I am Daniel Wingfield.
And we have spoken.